Have you heard about Madeline Mccann? She's the 3-year-old who went missing during a family vacation to Portugal. Here's what happened. It's Thursday, May 3rd, 2007, and the Mccanns, Kate, Jerry, Madeline, and Madeline's twin baby siblings are on the 6th day of their family vacation to Portugal. They're staying at the Ocean Club Resort in Praia da Luz with several other families from their social circle back home in England. In total, there are 9 adults and 8 kids, including Kate, Jerry, and their kids. Much like the first few days of the trip, the family ate breakfast together at the apartment that they were renting. After breakfast, all 3 kids were dropped off at their age-appropriate activities, while Jerry and Kate played tennis. The couple met their kids for lunch before sending them back to their activities for a few more hours. When evening came, Kate and Jerry picked up their 3 kids and took them back to the apartment. There, they fed, bathed, and tucked the little Mccanns safely into bed. The twins slept in travel cots provided by the resort, while Madeline slept in a single bed. The group of adults had a reoccurring dinner reservation at the resort's tapas restaurant, so each night they met up for dinner, leaving their children in the apartment alone with the intention of checking in every half hour. The patio doors could only be locked from the inside of the apartment, and so they decided that they would leave them unlocked but closed. Kate and Jerry felt safe because they could see the apartment from the restaurant, and every night before, Kate and Jerry returned to their room where their kids slept peacefully, and so did they. Each day was the same until it wasn't, because this night would end differently. At 9:05 p.m., Jerry went for the first check-in. He noticed right away that the door to the kids' bedroom was further ajar than he had left it. But after checking the kids and finding them all exactly how he had left them, he used the restroom and headed back to the restaurant. He bumped into a friend from the tennis club on the way and had a short conversation. In fact, one of the other adults in the group mentioned having seen Jerry talking to this man on her way to check on her kid. When 9:30 rolled around, it was Kate's turn to go check in on the kids again. But when she stood up, one of the other parents in the group who was staying in the room immediately next door to the Mccanns decided to go for her because he had to check on his kids anyway. Kate was reluctant, but she agreed. When he returned, he reassured them that all was well. Then at 10 p.m., Kate went back to the apartment herself, and she noticed the door seemed a little more open than they had left it. She walked towards the room and went to pull the door shut, but it slammed instead, as if it had been caught in a gust of wind. Kate knew she hadn't left the patio door open, and the window in the kids' room was always shut, so the slam didn't make sense. Immediately, she opened the door and walked into the room and waited for her eyes to adjust to the dark. Right away, Kate notices that Madeline's bed's empty. She turns on the lights and realizes with a shock that the window in the bedroom, which had always been shut, was now wide open. Can't fit everything, go to part 2. This is part 2 of Madeline Mccann's case. If you haven't seen part 1, go back and watch it. We left off with Madeline's mom, Kate, finding out that Madeline isn't in her room and that the bedroom window is open, and it wasn't supposed to be. Kate knew instantly that Madeline was gone, but she still frantically scoured every spot she could think of Maddie fitting in, hoping against hope that her baby was there. With no sign of Madeline, Kate ran down the stairs back to the restaurant where the rest of the group was still sitting and screamed, "Madeline's gone. Someone's taken her." With that, the search for Madeline was on. The screams had awoken many other guests at the resort who quickly joined in on the search once they heard that a child was missing. Hotel staff were called and the police were notified. Police arrived a little after 11, more than an hour after Kate had discovered Madeline missing. Meanwhile, the resort staff and guests were searching the grounds for Madeline. More than 60 staff from the resort kept looking for Madeline until 4:30 in the morning. And around 8 a.m., 4 search and rescue dogs arrived to begin searching the wider area beyond the resort. The news of Madeline's disappearance broke the next morning when one of their friends back in the UK contacted the BBC and GMTV to try and get them to cover the story. It would go on to be one of the most widely covered crimes in British history. Right from the start, the police were suspicious of Kate and Jerry, and they believed that the parents were involved somehow in their daughter's abduction. This was made worse by the fact that they both agreed to take part in any interview or news story which would feature their daughter in the hopes of her being found. But in the police's eyes, they saw this as a ploy to deflect the authorities' attention away from their involvement. The media interest became so overwhelming that PR consultants from the British government were transported to Portugal to manage the media onslaught. In the early days of the investigation, there were some possible suspects, but none of them panned out. One of the possible suspects that was investigated was a British-Portuguese man. He lived about 130 meters from the apartment and was identified as having been seen in the area that night by a number of residents and resort staff. He was questioned, his home searched, his pool drained, and his associates even questioned. But nothing was discovered to indicate that he had any involvement in Madeline's disappearance. Witnesses reported other suspicious activity around the resort in the days before the abduction as well. including reports from guests who had stayed in the same apartment the McCanns were staying in. They reported having returned to their apartment and finding strangers on their balcony who were asking for money. This claim was repeated by at least 3 vacationers. About a month after Madeline's disappearance, the media turned on Kate and Jerry. They also began pointing fingers at their friends who had been labeled the Tapas 7. There were some wild claims about this group that circulated throughout the media. False claims were reported that the group's statements kept changing and that they were all swingers who had been regularly sedating all of their children. They were also accused of being involved in covering up what really happened to Madeline. Can't fit everything, go to part 3. This is part 3 of Madeline McCann's coverage. If you haven't seen part 1 and 2, go back and watch them. In part 2, we left off with the Tapas 7 being accused of covering up what really happened to Maddie. The investigators believe this because they claim there are inconsistencies in Kate and Jerry's story, which makes the investigators believe that they are involved in Madeline's disappearance. Most of these claims are related to whether or not the patio doors were locked or unlocked, whether the door to the bedroom was open or shut, and whether the blinds and shutters were up or down in the bedroom window. The authorities' version of what really happened was that Kate and Jerry sedated the children and Madeline had overdosed and died. This theory goes on that Kate and Jerry then hid her body and removed it later on in May when they rented a car. And as a result, Kate and Jerry and the Tapas 7 covered the crime by claiming Madeline had been abducted. Meanwhile, the McCanns, Kate and Jerry, are just desperate to find their daughter and call on any expert who can help find her. Use psychics and even a matter orientation expert who asserted she had the technology to track people's DNA by satellite. Unfortunately, both were unsuccessful, but they led people to believe that they were still trying to cover their tracks by bringing in false experts. The McCann's case wasn't helped when cadaver dogs were brought inside the apartment and alerted first by the sofa and then beside one of the wardrobes. The dogs also alerted near the driver's door and trunk of a vehicle the McCanns were renting in Portugal. But here's the thing. That vehicle was rented 20 days after Madeline's disappearance, and when DNA testing was done on the car, it came back as inconclusive as to whether or not Madeline had ever been in the car. 4 months after Madeline's disappearance, the couple returned back to the UK. And in the last 15 years, sightings of Madeline have come in from every corner of the globe. Thousands upon thousands of tips are received even to this day. Unfortunately, none have been verified. Then, in April 2022, Portuguese authorities announced they had an official suspect in the case. The 45-year-old German man's name is Christian Bruckner. According to officials, he's currently serving time for an unrelated case and has been a suspect in Madeline's disappearance since 2020. They believe that Christian murdered Madeline, though no information about their evidence in the case has been released. Whatever may have happened, Madeline's disappearance remains a mystery, and her family continues to fight for justice. There's so much more information about this case that can't be fit in a couple of TikToks. If you're interested in an in-depth coverage of it, be sure to check out the Murder Diaries.
This girl claiming to be Madeline McCann just submitted a DNA test. For those that don't know, Madeline McCann is a girl who went missing without a trace while on vacation in 2007. It's one of the biggest true crime mysteries of our generation, and there's even an entire Netflix documentary on Madeline. Well, the mystery of Madeline may have just been solved as this girl has came forward claiming to be Madeline McCann. Now, this girl has just submitted her DNA test so investigators can find out if she actually is Madeline or not. But a lot of the comments on her TikTok page seem to think that she is definitely not Madeline. But what do you guys think?
This is Julie, and she believes that she is the missing British girl, Madeline McCann. Last week she started an Instagram account which already has over 500,000 followers, sharing a string of photos which she claims proves she is Madeline McCann. It's already caught the attention of Maddie's parents, Kate and Jerry, who reportedly agreed to a DNA test. Julie is from Poland, and she began wondering if she was Maddie a few months ago after she overheard her grandmother say something. So she started this Instagram account where she's been posting photos, sharing side-by-side images of herself and Maddie, comparing similar physical traits. In one video, she shows marks on her body that are similar to Maddie's, and in another side-by-side image, she sort of says it's evidence when she shows her facial structure is similar to Maddie's as well. Perhaps one of the most powerful images is one that Julia shows, which appears to be a similar eye defect to the one that missing Maddie has. Julia has also come out and said that she's actually not looking for viral fame. She truly believes that she is Madeline McCann. Madeline McCann is in a holiday park in Portugal in 2007. She was 3 years old at the time. It means that if she was the fiancée, she'd be 19 years old.
Some of you may remember last year, there was an individual called Julia who claimed to be the missing child, Madeline Mccann. She's finally had an interaction with Madeline McCann's parents, but it hasn't gone to plan, well, in her eyes anyways. They've asked her to basically leave them alone. She shared this recording on her Instagram. Trigger warning, viewer discretion is advised. This video is for educational and news reporting purposes only. Take a listen. Let me know what your thoughts are.
Can you tell you are not Madeline? How do you know you're not DNA? How do you know you're not DNA? That's character. You don't want to see the afterwards and see the I don't know what your investment is. No, don't listen. We're not having a discussion about it. It's not going to do with anything.
No, DNA. I'm just a little town. I have all markings on my body, almost. I have memory.
No, you have said so much stuff. We don't want any information.
Well, all I'm saying is, but this is DNA on paper. DNA on paper. My DNA from
the police are well aware about Julia and her situation.
But it's not lying.
How are you going to find that?
Because I have a prison.
Okay. And you go to him and get him to send all the information to the Metropolitan Police. Because you
were so high after the Freemason. I'm not here to No, you're not here. I get nothing. Look at it, definitely, and hold me out. It's hold me out. Please take it.
Want to.
This is Julie, and she believes that she is missing British girl Madeline McCann. Last week she started an Instagram account which already has over 500,000 followers, sharing a string of photos which she claims proves she is Madeline McCann. It's already caught the attention of Maddie's parents, Kate and Jerry, who have reportedly agreed to a DNA test. Julie is from Poland, and she began wondering if she was Maddie a few months ago after she overheard her grandmother say something. So she started this Instagram account where she's been posting photos, sharing side-by-side images of herself and Maddie, comparing similar physical traits. In one video, she shows marks on her body that are similar to Maddie's, and in another side-by-side image, she sort of says it's evidence when she shows her facial structure is similar to Maddie's as well. Perhaps one of the most powerful images is one that Julia shows, which appears to be a similar eye defect to the one that missing Maddie has. Julia has also come out and said that she's actually not looking for viral fame. She truly believes that she is Madeline McCann. Madeline McCann is in holiday park in Portugal in 2007. She was 3 years old at the time. It means that if she was the fiance, she's 19 years old.
It's been officially confirmed tonight that the police search around a remote reservoir in Portugal in the hunt for Madeline McCann is over. Samples retrieved from the site will now be sent to Germany for analysis. My correspondent Emma Murphy is there for us. Emma, do we know any more?
Well, we know that the authorities say that they have taken samples from this area in order to send them for forensic testing. Because this investigation was led by the Germans, they will go to Germany to be assessed. And obviously what they're looking for is to try and establish whether or not there is any direct link between these areas and Christian Bruckner or Madeline McCann. If I just let you look behind me there, this area at the start of the week was very, very heavily populated with vegetation. The teams have come in with those cutting machines that we've been discussing over the last few days and carved a path all the way to the back. There, they've dug down into the ground and taken soil samples. So we assume that that is some of the material that has been sent for that testing. We don't know how long that's likely to take. The German authorities have said that they will not be able to do all this quickly, so it is likely to be a further wait in the 16-year investigation. Of course, what we do know is that the authorities came here as a result of a tip-off from someone who they say was a credible source, who says that Christian Bruckner, who is the prime suspect in Madeline's disappearance, used to come here on a regular basis.
They started early. After 16 years without answers, there was no time to lose. Officers from Germany, Portugal and the UK searching a reservoir 30 miles from where Madeline Mccann disappeared. The 3-year-old went missing from her hotel room in 2007. This convicted German sex offender, Christian B., has been named as the prime suspect in the case. He denies any involvement, but this is a place he allegedly called his paradise. And after receiving a tip-off, German prosecutors ordered a new search.
I can't disclose the background at the moment, why we are searching there and what we hope to find there. That shall remain a secret for the moment.
Throughout the day, teams scoured the ground, hoping it would reveal any secrets it may hold. Boat teams waited on the water, officers determined to uncover any evidence that may be hidden here.
I am damn sure that Madeline Mccann was not abducted.
Wow. What do you think happened then?
I tend to agree with the Portuguese police. The Portuguese police believed that what was possibly, well, they believed that she died in the apartment, first of all. Very high-ranking cadaver and blood dogs were sent into the apartment, and these were not regulars. These belonged to Martin Grime, who was a top-of-the-range man from North Yorkshire Police, who has been used in testimonies in the States, and has actually, people have been convicted without bodies being found based on the testimony of him and his work. So it was his dogs that went in, and these dogs, they alerted to blood spats behind the sofa, with a high DNA allele count that was related, it would appear, to Madeline. There was a problem with the forensic science services. There were problems with the DNA, the issues and everything. But these dogs alerted only in the apartment where Madeline was reported missing. In a hire car that McCann's hired after Madeline was reported missing, in the further holiday home that they were moved to when apartment 5A was made a crime scene, Madeline's cuddly toy and a key fob belonging to the McCanns. These dogs were also sent to the apartments of all the other people who were on the holiday and didn't alert once. So those dogs only alerted in the apartment when Madeline went missing. And what I think is highly possible that happened, because this, okay, I will say what the Portuguese police believe. The Portuguese police believe that it's highly likely that when Jerry Mccann came in around 9:15 and he went out the apartment and he was having a conversation with a BBC producer outside the window who was also on holiday, and Madeline woke up, possibly in a daze because she might have been having some sort of, I don't know, Calpol or whatever, woke up in a daze, got up on the back of the sofa, looked out of the window, fell off down the back of the sofa, cracked her head open on the stone floor. And that is what is believed happened. And that was the case that was archived by the Portuguese police. And with the archiving of that, Kate and Jerry Mccann no longer were arguidos. But Kate and Jerry Mccann, and the Supreme Court said this, Kate and Jerry Mccann have not been cleared.
So if they had just called the police and said, with just the worst accidents just happened, our kid fell off the sofa.
But who knows how any of us would react in a situation like that? They had their careers, all of them were, you know, the vast majority of them were doctors, you know, so...
No one would have believed them and said,
right,
hit her.
Right. But there's so much evidence, which probably I have time to go into, but what I would say is, to anybody, check out the Portuguese police files, which are online. Look at the testimony of the Smith family, who say on that night, they say around that time where Madeline, the time that Madeline was reported missing, they claim that they saw a man carrying a small child going down towards the sea, and they claim that they are 60 to 80% certain that that was Jerry Mccann.
Wow.
And this is the stuff you don't see in the press, but this is the stuff why there's so much about this case, including the fact that Jerry changed his witness statement. He gave a witness statement the day after, on the 4th of May, and he gave another one on the 10th, and between those dates, he changed how...
There has been a huge update in the Madeline Mccann case. Madeline was just 3 years old in 2007 when she was on vacation with her family in Portugal and simply vanished. This is Christian Bruckner. He has been identified as the main suspect in Madeline's disappearance. He was in the area at the time it happened. He is a known felon, and in 2019, he was sentenced for forcing himself on a 72-year-old woman in 2005. An investigator from the Federal Criminal Police, which is basically Germany's FBI, was giving evidence in an unrelated case that they had come across 3 Hotmail accounts that all belonged to Christian Bruckner. Now, we went into details of 2 of them, saying that he used these accounts to send explicit pictures, including pictures of himself. However, the 3rd account he said he was unable to talk about because it was related to the killing of Madeline Mccann. The investigator alleged that authorities did find a 2nd email account in 2007, shortly after Madeline had disappeared, but that this account had been used to send videos and pictures of child abuse, but that it had been massively deleted and basically there was nothing left. But now it does appear that they have found 3 separate accounts linked to Christian Bruckner, and one of those accounts has information pertaining to Madeline McCann's disappearance.
Madeline McCann suspect Christian Bruckner has made a disturbing jailhouse confession according to his prison cellmate. A German court has heard Bruckner confess to an inmate that he abducted a child from an apartment during a break in Portugal. Bruckner made other chilling statements to the inmate, including asking if DNA from a child could be taken from bones under the ground. The court heard Bruckner told the inmate he was in an area of hotels where rich people live, and when he went to the hotel area, there was an open window. He entered the room and left with a child.
Please, if you have Madeline, let her come home to her mummy, daddy, brother and sister.
It's the latest twist in the ongoing mystery of the 3-year-old British girl who vanished on May 3 in 2007 from a holiday apartment in Portugal while her parents dined nearby. In 2020, German authorities identified Bruckner, a convicted pedophile and rapist, as a prime suspect, but no charges have been filed. Despite extensive investigations, Madeline remains missing and the case remains open.
This was Kate and Jerry Mccann, 10 days after their daughter Madeline vanished on the family holiday. Now those days have turned into 10 years, and the couple still have no idea what happened to Madeline.
You don't realise how strong you are until you have no option, and I think that's very true. Obviously, massive events like this cause a lot of reaction, a lot of trauma and upset, but ultimately you have to keep going, and especially when you've got other children involved.
I think before Madeline was taken, we felt we'd managed to achieve a little perfect nuclear family of 5. And we had that for a short period, and I suppose it's just almost the same way as if your child becomes ill or seriously ill or has died, like many other families have suffered, then your vision is altered and you have to adapt, and you adapt and you have a new normality, and unfortunately for us, our new normality at the minute is a family of 4.
Madeline was nearly 4 years old when she vanished from the family's holiday apartment in Portugal. 2 Portuguese police investigations have found no proof of her fate, nor has Scotland Yard, which began its own investigation 6 years ago. It told the Mccanns this week it still had one significant piece of evidence to pursue.
My hope of Madeline being out there is no less than it was almost 10 years ago. I mean, apart from those first 48 hours, nothing actually has changed since then. I mean, I think the difficult thing has always been, how will we find her? You know, because you're relying on the police doing everything they can, and you're relying on somebody with information coming forward.
I think that's so important, that everyone thinks, well, what could have happened? But some of the scenarios with other people who have been abducted and kept, they're just so unbelievable that you think, that how could that have happened? And that's probably what's going to happen with Madeline's case.
It might not be as quick as we want, but there's real progress being made. So I think we need to take heart from that, and we just have to go with the process and follow it through, whatever it takes, for as long as it takes, you know, but there's still hope that we can find Madeline.
Madeline's parents say there is still no evidence that she's been harmed. In the absence of that, they have real hope that their daughter is alive and will one day be reunited with them. Martin Brunt, Sky News.